All right, everybody. Just before we get into the podcast today, I want to, say thank you to this month's sponsor, and I'm really excited this month. This sponsor, I've been using their product since I was in high school, which Fish Likes to Remind Me was a really long time ago. And so this month's sponsor is Sculpey, and they have sent us a bunch of stuff to give away at our drawing events, both here and in Texas, because now we have drawing events in Texas. So if you're in the San Angelo area, go check that out. If you're not familiar, Sculpey is an oven-baked clay, is an amazing crafting medium that has been around for over 50 years, like I said, back when I was in high school. Sculpey offers a wide selection of oven-baked clay brands for all different crafting levels, from kids just starting out their creative journey to people looking to make jewelry and DIY home decor to talented sculptors selling their art. There's a Sculpey clay for everyone. Sculpey clay is easy to use and stays soft until you bake it in your home oven at a low temperature of 275 degrees Fahrenheit, which is lower than baking cookies. Now I want cookies. You can check out Sculpey Clay and a wide selection of their innovative tools at www.sculpey.com. For a limited time, they've actually given us a coupon code for us here at Inebri-art. So if you're listening now, you can go to sculpey.com for 25% off your entire order. So you just go over to www.sculpey, that's SCULPEY.com, and enter the promo code PFNS25, and you'll get 25% off your entire order. So let's get into the podcast. All right, welcome back to the Inebri-art podcast. This is Andy, and we are here today recording at the Mayflower Brewery because our good friends at the Craft Beer Cellar are working diligently on their craft beer advent calendars. So if you're a beer drinker and a Christmas celebrator, go there and pick up a advent calendar. I would say sooner rather than later, because they do sell out quickly. And so a while back, we always get new people into our figure drawing, and it was maybe like 6-8 months ago.
Yeah, about 8 months ago now.
Yeah, Anna Murfin.
Yep.
Came in and immediately kind of fell in with the rest of us hoodlums, and turns out you are not only an artist, but you are a potter.
That's correct.
So you work as a potter at Plimoth Plantation.
I do indeed.
So did you start off in ceramics? And like, how did that come to be?
Well, I was thinking about this today because while I was at work and I had some quiet time, I was like, I have to talk about something with like Andy and Fish, and it better be interesting. And then I thought, well, I suppose what I do is interesting. Being a potter and making reproduction 17th century pottery is not something you kind of hear about every day.
No, so you do it kind of to a historic standard.
Yeah,
right?
Basically I look at pots from 400 years ago, very specifically English and Dutch style pottery associated with the Pilgrims, and when the Pilgrims were living in England or Holland before they came to America, and then the kind of pottery they brought with them, and then the kind of pottery that they were importing from England because they didn't make pots, they weren't potters. So I look at the actual physical pots that are either in the Plymouth Plantation collection or in the collection of museums around the world, usually in Europe, sometimes here in America, and then as accurately as possible, using reasonably historic methods, I replicate these pots.
So you're not using Sculpey?
No, I'm not using air dry clay either.
Who Sculpey is our sponsor this month, so I figured I'd drop their name.
Yay, Sculpey!
So was this something you knew how to do going into this job, or did you kind of have to learn on the fly?
Well, I knew how to make pots. I've been a potter now. I really started my journey into pottery in 2006. So I guess it's been about 11 years now, if I can count, which
It's
I'm a
more
potter
like
and
12.
I can't
12.
count. Okay, 12. I'll take
12
your word
years.
for it. 12 years.
Almost
12
13.
years. Oh, God, don't make me feel old. So I knew how to make pots before starting this job. I have a degree in ceramics, and I'd been a independent artist making pots for and actually fine art and jewellery and a variety of other art forms. Going to high-end art craft fairs, selling my work directly to the public, exhibiting in galleries, having my work in high-end art craft galleries, and having solo shows. And I've always had a love for history, and I guess this love for history is really kind of why I ended up being an artist in a very long and complicated roundabout route. Really, you can blame Joan of Arc for everything.
Oh, okay. Is that why they burned her?
No,
because of you?
She could have been burned for accidentally setting some pots on fire. I don't know. When I was a kid, I loved Joan of Arc.
Okay. And you grew up where? Because you're obviously not from Plymouth.
Sorry. No, I grew up in England originally.
Yeah, whereabouts?
Don't even go there. Lots of different places. So let's just say England. And leave it at that. So Joan of Arc was my heroine, because who doesn't want to dress in armour and hit people with a sword and ride horses and go into battle? Well, obviously I do, but many other people probably wouldn't. So at my first time going to university, which was for nothing art related, I got very excited because they had a fencing club, a kendo club, and a group that did Viking, Saxon and Norman reenactment.
Oh,
what
cool.
do all those things have in common? You can hit people with
swords
and
right.
pretend to be Joan of Arc.
Yeah.
So I started doing this medieval reenactment and really enjoyed it, basically smacking the hell out of people.
Yeah.
And then I started to get interested in, apart from just hitting people, what did people do? How did they live? And I got interested in dyeing materials and walls with plants, because I had a science background, and that was kind of really interesting.
Yeah.
And then my friend said to me, well, you've got all these puffs of coloured wool, you need to do something with them. You can't just have balls of coloured wool lying around.
So you would just colour the wool because you could?
Pretty much.
With no real purpose?
No.
Okay.
Mostly it was what colours could you get, and I really wanted to find out why some colour greens...
You're like, look, I got green. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to go make blue.
Exactly. That was pretty much it. So my friend Deborah taught me how to spin on a spinning wheel. I was hooked. This was the coolest thing since sliced bread. So then I had all this spun wool. So not only did I have poofs of coloured fluffy wool, and then I had hanks of coloured wool, and Deborah's like, well, you can't just have poofs of wool and spun yarn, you've got to do something with them.
Yep.
So she introduced me to the Dyers, Weavers, Spinners Guild, which had all sorts of wonderful people which did textile-y stuff. And then I fell in with a group of reprobate textile artists. Is
this still over in England?
It's still over in England. And this was a wonderful woman called Marion who lived on a Dutch barge in a quaint English town called Sandwich.
Okay.
So once a week we would meet up, and she had all these wonderful friends. Some of them were old ladies, some of them were young ladies, but most of them were highly accomplished textile artists, whether professional or just did it for fun, but were really amazing. And they thought I was the funniest thing in the world with all these poofs of wool and bits of spun wool and no idea what to do with any of them. So they kind of kept showing me all these things to do with them, and I kept making stuff, and then they thought it was funny that one week they would show me a new technique, and that week I'd go home and play with it and come back and go, look what I made.
Right.
And so I'd be making bags and skirts and weaving things out of wool and kind of wearing them out because, well,
what else are you going to do with it, right?
Yeah. And people kept saying, oh, wow, that's really cool. Where did you get it? Oh, I made it. Ha, ha, ha. And they're like, can I buy one? Are you an artist? And I'm like, oh, no, it was just for fun. And after the 15th person had tried to buy the skirt off me or the bag off my back, it was like the universe was smacking me around the head and going, maybe you should
Yeah, people want to give you money, let them.
Yes. So I thought, well, I should probably go back to university and do a degree in textiles. That way I'd have some official looking letters after my name. So I did that, and then
what were the letters after your name?
That's a bit rude to say over the air,
okay.
Probably let's just put a series of stars and expletives. So I then accidentally came out of my degree in ceramics degree in textiles with a degree in ceramics.
So did you change midstream?
Well, I started off, the first year of the degree was we're going to get you to try a few different mediums.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And so we had a 1-week module in ceramics, and I was like, God, what is this stuff? And I spent 2 days making mud from mud, and kind of was like, and then suddenly something clicked, and it kind of came together, and it came out of this project with a cool-looking thing, a bit of sculpture. And my tutor kind of said, well, if you want to play with clay for other projects, you can do that as well. And that was just this long, slippery slope down. And then I was supposed to choose at the end of my first year whether I was to go full-time textiles or full-time ceramics. And both the lecturers were kind of fighting over who should have me and where I should go. And in the end, I kind of flipped a coin and
you just ended up with ceramics. Do you still do textile stuff?
Yes, yes, I do. In fact, much to my husband's dismay, probably most of our attic is full of
coloured poofs.
It's we don't need any more insulation, and stop buying spinning wheels, because I think I've got 7 at home. Jeez. So, yeah.
Nice. So when did you come over to the US?
First off, I was here in 2009 for about 9 months. I did part of my ceramics degree here in America at CCSU University in New Britain in Connecticut.
Okay.
And I did some jewellery there, so I kind of sneaked in almost a minor in jewellery into my degree in ceramics. And I ended up staying for a few months after the university term had finished, because one of my friends that I made, who was also a ceramicist, look out for Abby Jensen, plug, Abby Jensen, amazing ceramicist. Check her out on Instagram and Facebook. Hey, Abby, I just plugged you online. So she and I decided to get an apartment together in an artist cooperative.
Oh, nice.
Unlike my brother thought, which was lots of naked artists living in a house together.
That's not what it was?
No, I'm sorry to disappoint you.
I retract my oh nice then.
Yeah. No, it was an old industrial building which got converted into an apartment specifically for artists. So there was a 2-bedroom apartment up for grabs. So Abby and I interviewed to be a part of this cooperative sort of live workspace for artists. And that was when kind of either the best thing happened in my life or the worst thing happened in my life, depending on how you look about me moving to America. So that was where I met my husband-to-be. Blonde hair, beautiful, long, golden blonde hair, big brown eyes, a waggy tail and a wet nose. This was Buzz the Golden Retriever, and there just happened to be this kind of thing attached to the end of the leash.
Yeah.
And I was like, mister, if you're going out to walk your gorgeous, handsome, beautiful dog, can I come too? And he'd be like, yes. And eventually I realised that Ray, who was the one on the end of the leash, was actually just as nice as the gorgeous Golden Retriever dog.
Are you sure?
No. Sorry, Ray.
So came to America, stayed for a dog.
Pretty much, yeah. And then Ray and I dated internationally for a while, and then it was like, this is ridiculous. We need to choose a country to live in. So again, it was kind of like flipping a coin time.
Yeah.
But it ended up just being a little bit easier at the time for me to move over here. And so 2011, I set foot on American soil and started the whole process of becoming an American citizen.
So you're a citizen now?
I am fully pledged American. I do the thing where I put my hand on my heart and wave at the flag.
Yeah.
But very exciting for me, being a big science fiction geek, for a period of about 3 years, I had official documentation which said I was an alien.
Oh, that's kind of nice.
I've always wanted to be an alien.
Yeah.
Little green guy with 13 eyes.
So if you're a big sci-fi fan and you're British, you must love Doctor Who. That's like a prerequisite, right?
Yes.
Who's your favorite Doctor?
Well, the Doctor I grew up with, who was my childhood Doctor, was Sylvester McCoy. And his companion Ace was one of my heroines, because not only was she awesome and feisty, but she carried dynamite around in her rucksack. And who doesn't want dynamite in their handbag?
And his companions aren't always strong characters.
No, but she was. And she was a really good role model for a teenage girl.
Nice.
So Although...
Because I grew up on Tom Baker, and I don't remember his companion being much more than the damsel in distress and nuisance.
No. I think Ace was one of the first of the new breed of companions that were more than just kind of a foil for the Doctor.
Yeah.
Christopher Eccleston, super wholesome Doctor as well.
I did like him as well. Although I was really a big fan. Actually, Matt Smith and blanking on his name, the other guy, David Tennant.
There we go.
I had to wait for the brain cells to get together. I really enjoyed them as well.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And you know what? Who is the best Doctor Who that was not Doctor Who that should have been? Benedict Cumberbatch. It was a toss-up between him as Sherlock or him as Doctor Who.
He's really good at Sherlock, though.
Oh, my God.
Really good at Sherlock.
Sometimes you can just see in that Sherlock a little glimpse of what a spectacular Doctor he would be given half the
absolutely.
chance.
So, you come to America.
Yes.
You meet a golden retriever.
Yes.
And some guy at the end of the leash.
Uh-huh.
What did you do then? Did you immediately go into some sort of, art, independent art, like freelance, or?
Pretty much. As soon as you
didn't have any crappy American jobs?
Well, as soon as I was able to, through the visa program and getting here, because you can't work until they give you a number and a social security number, and they kept losing all my paperwork, so it took me 6 months to legally be allowed to actually make money, which was ridiculous. But let's not go into the whole state of American politics and immigration, because...
Oh, it's all fixed now. Now it's not a problem.
No, it's fine. So for the first 6 months, I was like on holiday. Basically, I was able to just make art without kind of having to worry about selling it.
Yeah.
So I did... I actually took some really cool classes at the local art league in New Britain, second oldest art league, plug art league of New Britain. They're awesome. So I had some classes with some really amazing artists, which kind of jump-started me into two-dimensional art, painting and drawing, which was not something I'd ever really done a lot of
Which
before.
is funny, because I didn't even know you did ceramics till recently.
Yeah, you've always known me as a 2D artist.
Right, yeah, and the fact that came second is kind of stunning.
Yeah.
Because you're excellent.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Flattery
will get you absolutely everywhere.
Well, perfect. I'll flatter you a lot then. So then you started picking up drawing in 2D art.
One of the first... I decided that I should probably, as well as being an independent artist, which was my goal, was to try and make a living from ceramics, from jewellery and two-dimensional art in whatever combination would work. I'd made some amazing contacts and friends when I was in New Britain in 2009. And the funny thing is, New Britain might be kind of a bit gritty and urban, but it has the most amazing art scene. It has 2 theatres, the New Britain Museum of American Art, like 3 or 4 different art leagues. So there's always something creative going on.
Yeah.
And
so New Britain, not a nicer part of Connecticut? Is that what you're saying? I've never been.
Okay, so I love New Britain. I think it's a really cool city, but it does have some problems, and it's like those...
And it's funny, when people think of Connecticut, they tend to think of, higher-end homes. And
there are lots of these really awesome towns and cities. You find them here in Massachusetts, were real hefty industrial manufacturing capitals about 100 years ago, and then the kind of manufacturing bottomed out, and then there was nothing for the people there to do, so they ended up kind of going from shining jewels with beautiful architecture to kind of a bit worn down and sort of no jobs, no money, everything kind of leaves.
And I feel like those places tend to end up with very strong art and music scenes because they tend to be inexpensive to live in.
Yep. You want somewhere to regenerate, put the artists in. The artists go to places that are cheap because no artist ever gets paid well, unless you're about 3 people. One of those is the person who puts sharks in tanks and butterfly wings on paintings. But, if you're not him, then you're pretty much often have to wear 2 or 3 hats to make a living.
Right.
And, you guys are involved in the creative industry, and I'm sure you see that all of the time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even in craft brewing, some brewers that I know have not just the brewing business, but, other forms of income streams.
I feel like it's craft brewing. We're in Mayflower, which is a very pretty sizable facility. But you get the smaller guys, Second Wind and Shakespeare, and it's their side hustle. It's their their overextended hobby, much like Inebri-art is ours.
And I guess the other art forms are mine, really.
Yeah. So you got into drawing. What brought you to Plymouth?
Basically, working at Plimoth Plantation. So I was doing the whole trying to sell my art, going to art craft shows every weekend, hustling for, any way to, try and get my art out there or to make some form of income from it. Everyone in the world is like, oh, art for free, but that doesn't help the artist. And I was kind of saying to my husband, the economy is getting worse. I seem to be making less money each year, and it's not for want of trying. It's not for lack of people, but just people aren't spending money on art. It's a frippery.
Right.
If your income's pinched, if you don't have enough money, what's the first thing to go? It's not your food. It's not your medicine.
Right. You're not going to be buying art to hang behind your couch.
No.
Yeah.
So I need to think about this in a different way, or maybe see if I can find some kind of full-time arts job. But that's impossible.
Right.
The very next day, one of my friends emails me and says, "Hey, this sounds like the perfect job for you." And it was working as a potter at 17th century Plymouth Plantation, making historical pottery full time. And I'm like, this is really cool, but what's Plymouth Plantation?
Oh, you didn't know?
I had not heard of this at
wow.
all. Afterwards I smacked my husband upside the head because I was like, why didn't you tell me there's this cool living history place?
Yeah.
I spent 15 years in England reenacting the Viking, Saxon, Norman times. Did you not think I might want to see a place where they reenact 17th century history? He'd taken me to Stalbridge Village, which was amazing.
Right.
But he didn't think anything of it. I mean, it seems that people in Massachusetts go there as a child, and then
it's almost prerequisite.
All the kids go there, and it's like, oh, something we were forced to do at school, dragged around to smell the pilgrims.
Now, is your husband originally from Connecticut?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, Connecticut.
So he might not have.
No, he knew.
Yeah.
He knew.
All right, Ray, I was trying to get you back.
He don't think he just wanted to take me there.
Yeah.
He's not a big history buff, so it would have been probably a slightly boring day for him.
Yeah. So you came up to Plymouth Plantation.
I came up for Plymouth Plantation, had an interview. The place was amazing. I loved it. I actually didn't want to go home. I just thought I just wanted to stay there forever. The people that I met were just really, really wonderful. And I then, passed the first interview for the job, and I had a second interview.
Now, did they require you to make some pottery?
They just very stupidly took my word that I could do the job. Yes, of course I can make pots in front of 500 screaming school children every day. Yes, that won't be a problem. Yes, I can talk a lot. So, perfect for the job.
Yeah.
And I passed the second interview, and then, surprisingly, they offered me the job. And then I was like, Ray, we live in Connecticut.
That's a hell of a commute.
This job is in Massachusetts, so... We weren't sure if it would work out. We certainly didn't know this area at all.
Yeah.
And basically my plan is to make pots in front of school children until they literally have to prop me up on the wheel, and I kind of die doing this because it's just such a cool, fun job.
Yeah.
So...
Well, you get paid to do something you love. You don't have to worry if it sells.
No. Yeah. And I get health insurance, which is awesome. You never get health insurance with an arts job.
No.
Wow. So I ended up figuring out that if I did a winter rental up here for over the winter period, because I started in September, then I would know if the job was cool and if they liked me by Christmas, because it was a 3-month probation period.
Yep.
And then we would have from January to May to figure out where we were going to live up here.
Yeah.
And it was going to be really, really tight because Ray was going to stay in our rented house in Connecticut, and I was going to do a winter rental up here.
Mm-hmm.
I got the most amazing winter rental. It was like being on holiday every day. It was in Wareham. It was right on the beach, and I had the most spectacular sunrises and sunsets. So I was like in heaven. I was having my dream job.
Beautiful place to live.
Yeah, I was on holiday. You know, my husband came up and visited every now and then.
Yeah.
You know, it was amazing. And after 3 months, they didn't fire me, so I was pretty sure they were going to keep me. And then we went to do the whole house hunting jobby, and we bought a house, and Ray came up, and we've been here permanently ever since. So about a year and a half permanent now, I think.
Oh, really? That's it?
So yeah, I've been up here for not quite 3 years.
Yeah.
So been living in Plymouth since beginning of June last year.
So I feel like you found us pretty quickly after you moved up here.
It was, yeah. Once I was like in Plymouth and I wasn't like 45 minutes away in Wareham, I was like, right, I need to properly explore Plymouth now, because I'd explored Wareham and kind of got connected with cool stuff going on down there, but there was no way as much there as, you know, Plymouth.
Plymouth is a real hotbed of stuff going on. It's
really awesome.
Yeah.
And then I was very lucky that I just happened to come across something on Facebook about Inebri-art. So I was like, what is this? And
you can drink and draw?
Yes! So I was like, I need to check this out.
So now your day job is to manufacture pottery on a daily basis.
Well, 50% of it is...
Okay, what's the other 50%?
Talking to people.
Ugh.
I know, awful. A good part of my job is talking to people and reading people and seeing how much information they want. Are they bored?
Yeah.
Do they want to know more? Stopping the kids screaming and focusing and listening to you. So it's really cool. It's a lot of interaction. So 50% of it is kind of the pottery part. The other 50% is like educating people. One of the biggest things is that, and I sort of was like this before I found out about Plimoth Plantation, you kind of get fed the whole Thanksgiving and pilgrims wore black with buckles on their heads and walked around with a turkey under their arm, and then
totally how it happened.
Yeah, some nice Indians turned up and gave them corn and everyone was happy.
Yeah.
But it's actually a really complicated story. So trying to gently break it to people that what they've been told as like every year on Thanksgiving from primary school age is actually complete rubbish.
Yeah.
And it's not really
do you find it challenging to not only break it to them easy, but give it to the kids in a way that they can understand it?
The kids are fine. They have no preconceptions.
Oh, okay. So it's more the adults?
A lot of the time it's the adults, and they don't hear what you're saying. They hear what they think you're going to say.
Yeah.
And it's more challenging to not just do that, educate people, break the myths, give them the truth, but do that in a minute and a half. Because somewhere between 30 seconds and a minute and a half is the average time that someone spends looking at me making pots.
And that's when they zone out.
And usually it's like conveyor belt, because today we had 1,300 school children through, plus normal everyday guests.
That's a lot.
Usually the school children on a very tight schedule. They have like 2.5 hours to see the Wampanoag home site, to see the craft centre, to see the pilgrims, have lunch, and then get back on the bus.
So they really just kind of shuffle them through.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you get kids that are really, really engaged and they want to like know everything and they want to watch you make pots and they really want to talk and interact. But a lot of the time, the chaperones are like, we have half an hour and we still haven't done the English village.
Yeah.
So basically 30 seconds and then on to the next
Look,
thing.
kids' pots. Okay, next thing. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So in an average week, how many pots do you make?
I can't answer that question for 2 reasons.
Because then the pilgrims would kill me? Or?
No, but I could just kill you.
No, you don't have to.
Actually, that's one of the a really big question that I get asked a lot.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you that because I can't make a pot in a day or sometimes even a week. It's a multi-day, multi-stage process.
Oh, okay. So you kind of have like multiple projects going at different times?
Yeah. And if I was just sitting by myself in a room banging out pots, then I could do effectively what we call production pottery, and I could make a whole ton of stuff, but I can't do that at work because half of my job is talking to people.
Right.
Now, I've tried throwing pots and talking to people, which I can do very easily, but if I don't have eye contact with people, they walk off, and then I look up and find that I've been talking to myself.
No one, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, it's a bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fine balancing act, because I do have to make pots for the pilgrims. I do make pots for the gift shop for sale. So trying to make enough pots that my beautiful, wonderful co-worker Marilyn, who's in charge of our gift shop, doesn't throw things at me because she's running out of pots to sell.
Yeah.
People are hassling her for like pots. And then I have to try and balance that with, okay, how am I educating people and talking to them?
So the clay that you use, is this a traditional clay, or is this something that you like, if you look behind this old-timey crate, there's a box from Michael's?
It's pretty much like that. I get my clay from a pottery supplier. Yay, Sheffield Pottery. Yay, Portland Pottery. They're my suppliers. I love them. And I get my clay from them because I want to match clay types in England or Holland, where originally these pots would have been made.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm really lazy, and I don't want to have to go down to Eel River and dig up a ton of clay, bring it up in a wheelbarrow, and then process it by hand.
And I feel like it'd be one thing if you're doing 6 to 8 pots, but if you're doing that year after year after year after year, that's going to have some sort of effect on the area where you're digging.
Yeah. And 400 years ago, if you're going to be a potter, you'd had a 7-year apprenticeship to learn the skills of the trade. And the apprentice would probably have ended up, one of their first jobs would be processing that clay, digging it out of the ground, bringing it back to the studio.
Doing the bitch work.
Exactly. And I've been plugging for apprentice, but I have yet to be fulfilled in having a minion to do the grunt work. So Portland Pottery, Sheffield Pottery, they are my minions for the clay processing.
So we were talking the other day, and I met a co-worker of yours, Patrick.
Oh, yeah.
And that is when I found out that if you work there as a pilgrim, you are assigned a pilgrim. So are you a specific pilgrim?
Well, because 400 years ago pilgrims were not making pots here, I don't have to be down in the village, because it's not a craft that was done really in Plymouth ever. The first potter that starts working in New England is 1635, but that's up in the Mass Bay colony.
Okay.
So as we're showing 1627 Plymouth, there were no potters there. Plus, I have a bit of a problem. I don't speak in a deep voice, and I haven't got a beard like Andy, because I would have had to have been a man to do this job 400 years ago.
Oh, really?
So I get to be me in a nice warm craft centre in the winter, a nice cool craft centre in the summer. We have electricity and air conditioning. And
so you don't even work in one of the old-timey setups?
I don't. I was very disappointed, actually, that I didn't get to wear like cool clothing and be a pilgrim. But actually, I'm really grateful that I have an electric kiln that I can just press go and walk away from.
Yeah. And
I don't have to manage a wood kiln for 12 hours without like a break.
Yeah.
Which I've done.
And AC? Pretty nice.
Yes. I don't even have AC at home. So, on those really hot days, I'm like, honey, am I going to work for a bit?
Yeah. I got some extra work I got to do.
Yeah.
Do you ever get tired of it? Like, does it ever get monotonous?
I don't get tired of making pots. Mostly, I don't get tired of talking to people, although 1,000 Screaming School Children is a little wearing. And this actually holds true not just for me, but all of my co-workers, is and excuse me for swearing, the people that are arseholes. I, as you can tell from my accent, was originally English, but now I'm here, now I'm American. And so I often get people ask me where I'm from, which I didn't mind answering, even if it was like 20 times a day. But this year particularly, and I think it's to do with the, without wanting to get into it too much, the political climate and the Great Orange Cheeto that is kind of setting the tone. I've had people being really obnoxious to me about my accent and effectively my ethnicity.
Really?
People I've had, and again, politics comes into everything, but it's always white, middle-aged, entitled men. Is it even legal for someone like you to work in a place like this with your accent?
Really?
That's okay, you're here legally, that's fine. Joke, joke, nudge, nudge, haha. I won't tell immigration you're here and get you deported, ha 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 ha. And if you think these are obnoxious, I work in the same room as a really lovely Native American guy who makes beautiful headdresses that were worn by warriors.
Yeah.
And oh my God, the people are so rude and obnoxious to him. Just say really hurtful, spiteful things. Some of it out of ignorance, a lot of it just because they can and they want to put him down. And that's the kind of thing that makes our job very difficult to do and actually very upsetting at times. And pilgrims get similar kind of disrespect to what they do. They put a lot of work into growing vegetables in the gardens behind the houses, and then they use those vegetables in cooking projects to demonstrate how people would have cooked.
And a lot of the grain gets ground at the grist mill
Absolutely.
and then sold to local restaurants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so people come through, they tramp on their gardens, they walk over their vegetables, they pull up onions, put them in their bags and try and take them home.
Really?
So they literally steal the vegetables that the pilgrims are growing to demonstrate and show how these would have been used. The Wampanoags on the home site also get a serious amount of disrespect and just prejudice. I mean, one of the hopes with this museum to show the pilgrims and the Wampanoag side by side and how the cultures interacted was to break down some of these issues and stereotypes and just general ignorance. But it's a hard thing to do every day when you're confronted with this bigotry.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a white entitled woman who gets issues. Imagine what it's like if you're not white.
Right.
And you know, what can you do? There's no comeback you can have to when people are rude to you, as you know.
Right, when you're trying to do your job and you know if you tell them to fuck off, then you probably lose your job.
Unfortunately, yes. Sometimes you shout it a lot in your head.
Yeah.
Smile and nod. Smile and nod.
Which, and I hate to say it, doesn't correct the behavior.
No.
Yeah.
No, but if you do try and do that, people get very offended.
Yeah.
And it's like it's very difficult to do that, especially if you have other people in the room who aren't part of that group.
Right.
So how do you correct someone who feels that they've paid $25 a person or whatever to
say whatever they want?
Yeah. It's like, well, I can do what I want because I've paid to come in here.
Right.
But they're not registering the fact that people that in front of you are living, breathing human beings.
Right.
And I'm sure wait staff get this, public-facing staff in grocery stores get this all the time.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
It's not just me making parts.
So, what is one of the dumber questions you've ever had about pottery?
One of the funniest questions that I got asked, which probably doesn't make much sense to you if you're not a potter, is, do you fire your pots in a racoon kiln? So there's a Japanese style of firing pots called raku, spelled R-A-K-U.
Yep.
So this guy comes up who obviously has read a little bit about pottery and is asking me if I fire my pots in a racoon kiln. So I now get this image of like blowing up a poor fairy racoon. So that was kind of the funniest question, really.
Is there one that you get repeatedly on a daily basis that you're kind of surprised is still...
Yes.
Yes, I
do. So I have a ceramic colander, but rather than being a bowl-shaped colander like you have in your kitchen for washing fruit and veg, it's a lot flatter. It's more of a plate shape.
Okay.
And it was specifically used for washing fish and shellfish.
Yeah.
And it was flatter because you've ever tried stuffing a fish in a bowl.
Let me guess, they ask how you drain spaghetti?
Well, first off, I got really fed up because everyone would ask me what it was for, and I'd try and make them guess, and then they would do things like, oh, it's a dish for the cat. And I'm like, that makes no sense.
Yeah.
So I got a fake fish to put in there.
Yeah.
So that stopped the stupid questions about what is this and is it a cat bowl. But then the questions about is this a real fish started. So then I put a
Are these
sign...
mostly kids?
Adults as well.
Oh, okay.
So then I put a sign on the fish that said, this is not a real fish. As I'm looking at fish across me who's poking at his computer,
yeah, he's not
I'm
a real
getting
fish
this
either.
whole kind of Magritte thing going on. But is this not a real fish? So people will come up, look at me, look at the fish, look at the sign, look at the fish, look at the sign, look at me, look down, look up, look down, up, and say, is this a real fish? And I'm like, just look at the sign, and that will answer your question for you.
You should just change the sign. This is a raccoon.
I would love to do that. That would cause more problems. But if you think that is weird that people can't tell a real fish from a very obviously plastic, squishy, fake fish,
Yeah.
I make little clay marbles sometimes. Marbles were a very common game in the 17th century. Kids would play them, but adults, particularly like you two dodgy-looking gentlemen, would play marble games and then gamble on the outcome.
Oh, okay.
I'd probably have about 3 beers from you by now because I'm awesome at marbles. But I make these clay marbles.
Because you make them and you probably rig them.
Well, maybe. I mean, literally, it's just very round, circular balls of clay.
Yeah.
And so I was making them, and I had them in a dish in front of me on the table so that people could see what I was doing and kids could pick them up and touch them. And I'm sorry, guys, but you are the worst culprit for this. White middle-aged men would come running in the door, running over to the marbles, pick up the fired clay marbles and stuff them in their mouths and try and eat them. They'd be like, it's not chocolate, don't eat it. This happened 3 times.
That's awesome.
So I had to put a sign next to the marbles saying,
not food.
Do not eat.
I object. I'm not middle-aged.
Well,
That's all I got.
Anyone over the age of 20 is
we're
middle-aged.
we're gonna kill you when you're 60. So
Yeah.
Fair.
all right.
Yeah.
That is the tragedy of being white middle-aged.
Yeah. I'm just saying anyone over 20 is middle-aged, so, you know.
Sure. And it also reminds me of the Patrick Swayze classic Roadhouse. You ever see it?
I think I have, but I think I slept through a lot
They
of
reference
it.
a sign in the men's room over the urinals that says "Don't eat the big white mint."
Yes.
So, what do you do outside of Plimoth Plantation for pottery and art, or do you pretty much just like where you do it every day? Do you kind of like get home and not want to do art?
Well, I haven't been able to do pottery at home because I have a studio space, but it wasn't wired up for the kiln setup that I needed. But finally, like 2 weeks ago, I got it completely sorted and wired up. So now, as soon as I get time to like put it all together, I can actually start physically making pots at home, which means that I've got some pots that I want to make which aren't 17th century pots, which have been dancing around in the back of my head for a while.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to have fun doing those. And there's also some 17th century pottery which I can't make at work, but is so cool that I want to make just for fun.
Yeah.
So
There's a pretty, now that I'm like thinking about it, there's kind of like a heavy pottery group of people in Plymouth and around. There's Kendra, who's been on the podcast before. I think she's from Wareham. Our good friend Roman, who comes to Life Drawing a lot.
Oh, cool.
He has a degree in sculpture and pottery, I believe.
Nice.
There's M. Adler, who does some pottery and two-dimensional art as well. It just seems like it's kind of like this subculture that's like right on under the surface of the art community here in Plymouth, and I never like really put it together till just now.
You know, it's a really dirty secret pottery.
Yeah, it's because you all make bongs.
Wow. Or reenact that scene from that movie, What I'm Not Going to Mention, with Patrick Swayze.
Oh, Ghost? Yeah.
Oh, that's the other thing. I've literally had people get out their phones and play that music to me.
Oh god, that's got to be horrible.
And I'm just like, no, we don't do that here. My husband gets jealous.
That joke has been so overdone.
No. You know, as well as my pottery studio at home and the 7 spinning wheels, I do paint as well. So that's something that I haven't. I've been sort of doing a lot of textiles recently. I've been using some plants to dye wool because it's the right time of year for doing that. So I've been experimenting with Native American dyeing.
Oh, nice. Is that something that you picked up from working at the plantation, or did you kind of always know about it?
I've always known about natural dyeing, but I've never really had chance to mess around with the plants here. And my co-worker Bob, who makes Native American headdresses, used to do a lot of dyeing of his material with plants local to the area. So I've been picking his brains, and he's like, it's the right time of year for doing this kind of dyeing. So I've kind of been, I think, horrifying my husband slightly. He's like, oh, what are you making for dinner? I'm like, no, it's wool soup, so you don't want to eat it.
I'm making blue for dinner. Blue is for dinner tonight?
Yep, pretty much.
Tomorrow will be orange.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's pretty fascinating. We're definitely going to have you back in again, maybe on the Old Colony Cast, to talk about specifically Plymouth Plantation and more kind of the historic aspect, if you're up for that.
Sure. You guys haven't laughed too much at me, so it must be okay.
Yeah. We laugh with you, not at you. People laugh at me, not with me. But do you have like an online presence for your art? Is there a website? Do you have a Facebook page for your art? Should people go to plymouthplantation.org?
Well, if you want to buy historical pottery, then you can go to Plymouth Plantation and look at their online store and all of the reproduction pottery that you can buy there.
Oh, so you can buy it right on the website too?
Yeah, because I'm employed by the plantation to make the pots, so you can just buy it straight off the website. Oh, you can come in and go, I heard you on Inebri-art and ...
And where are the chocolates? Is this a real fish? Let me play this song for you.
Yeah, exactly. You just make me cry in the corner. And then you can tell me like you are an Inebri-art fan. At the moment, I have been terribly lax. I'm in the process of kind of redesigning my website, and that kind of got put on hold because I did the terribly bad thing of going on holiday for 2 weeks.
I saw the pictures; they're amazing.
Yeah, and I had the best time, but sort of I haven't caught up with myself after having a 2-week break, and then coming home and finding mice had taken up residence in the kitchen and pooed in all our drawers.
Oh, that's not good.
There's still an ongoing battle.
It's that time
with
of
the
year
mice.
for that too.
Yeah. So once I have battled with the evil mice and sort of sorted out
in my head, she's dressed in armor,
then
wielding a sword, fighting mice.
Oh, you can have this image. Like, it's amazing. You know, if my husband had his way, it would be flamethrower in the drawers.
Yeah.
But once the mask problem is finished, the next thing on my list is website.
Yeah. Nice.
So, yeah, it kind of. You talk to any artist and they always go, oh my god, I'm just trying to figure out my website and update it. And
it seems to be the task they don't want to do. Yeah.
I do have a website, but I'm not going to tell you what it is because it's done using Flash, and if you try and pull it up on your phone, which 99% of people do, it crashes.
Nice.
And it doesn't work, which is why I need to update it. Yeah. But because I'm not very good at this and I have to beg and borrow, steal people's time, and fight mice in the kitchen. And I just want to make pots,
right?
Play with wool and go and
don't want to do the promotion stuff.
Yeah. I want to draw semi-naked people with beer, or me drinking and having semi-naked
people.
Yeah.
Well,
cool.
We're looking forward to having you at more of the Inebri-art events.
Yay.
Monday is Life Drawing at the New World Tavern.
I'll be there.
First Monday, third Wednesday of every month, except for the third Wednesday in November, December, but that's because of Thanksgiving and our Christmas party. But Sculpey's our sponsor, so you're going to get some clay stuff. And it's been a pleasure having you at our events, and we're happy we met you. And we have some art shows coming up later this year and into next year, so hopefully we'll see some stuff. Yeah,
putting in smart.
Nice. And thanks for joining us. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me, and for Mayflower to let me take over some of their space while talking to you guys.
Yeah, they're super great to us. They're just like, anytime you want to come and record, just let us know. So Mayflower Brewery has been pretty outstanding. And they make pretty delicious beer.
Tasty beer.
So, All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for listening to our podcast. Don't forget to check out our other podcasts. There's the Bar Talk podcast, there's Old Colony Cast, and of course the Inebri-art podcast along with Jam Packed. You can find all those on Stitcher, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, pretty much anywhere podcasts are found. If you're on some sort of service and you can't find it, let us know, and we'll help you out and or add our podcast with that too. You can contact us at inebriart@yahoo.com and follow us on Facebook as well as Twitter at Inebri-art. And feel free to send us some tips, ideas, advice, hate mail, whatever it is, you can get us there. And again, thanks for listening.